Right, so we will get started. So thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to do today our radio and telecoms infrastructure maintenance services roundtable. Kindly joined by two of my colleagues from Sizewell C today, Ella and Jack, who will be giving a presentation on the scope of works that's ahead, and really an opportunity to you to hear about these packages. And at the end of the presentation, there'll be an opportunity for a Q&A session. So if you've got any comments and questions, please do put them in the chat. If you do want to raise your hand during, please do, but just please be aware we won't be stopping the presenting to take any questions. We'll do all the questions at the end, and that saves any messing around with regards to some of the content that might come in the future. Just as a quick introduction, for those I've not met before, my name is Ashley Shorey-Mills. I'm the Sizewell C Supply Chain Engagement Director here at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. And obviously our job is to support you as the local and regional businesses to play your part on Sizewell C, to work closely with Sizewell in identifying those businesses that can form part of adhering to that commitment that Sizewell C have made around using local and regional businesses. Plenty of people joining now, which is wonderful. So just as a couple of quick slides, first of all, from me before I hand over to Ella. Obviously, some of you may have seen this slide on a few of our recent webinars. This is the Sizewell C project strategic aims, and you can see at the top all of the core aims of the project, which beautifully reflects on what our aims are as a Chamber of Commerce as well. But you'll see in particular, and what I want to highlight is down the bottom, all of those core strategic aims of the project are very much aligned and delivered by the bottom bits, the environmental and sustainability, the social value and the people. And you'll see in particular, everything around supply chain fits into that social value appendix, doing good to Suffolk and the region, whilst benefiting the project more broadly as well. And in particular, when it comes to social value, many of you have seen before the 5 core goals that Sizewell have around this. And again, you'll see core to this. Goal 1 is increasing that UK content. Sizewell promised to do at least 70% of this project by UK companies. And you'll see within the text there, that is prioritising local, then regional, then national. So it is very much making sure that this project is delivered by the right businesses who can be on time, on budget, safe, but also those who can deliver the best possible social value, and where possible, utilising the local and regional supply chain, either directly or as part of their supply chain. And the other areas, of course, we have spoken about a lot. We've delivered lots of webinars and support on. Good thing as local and regional businesses is actually, by the nature of it, you deliver all 5 of these goals, are a solution to the project in so many ways. Of course, we have our key themes. They reflect Sizewell's key themes perfectly. And we like to touch on the fact that, yes, we are Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. Sizewell is a project in Suffolk. The biggest impact will be felt in Suffolk, but actually we're there to represent businesses from across all 6 counties of the region, and equally as well. So if you're a business in those 6 counties, we're there to help support you, understand where the project, people understand how to work together. Because on projects like this, it is not about single solutions. It is about a multifaceted approach to delivering on all these little individual work. There's also about making sure there is a legacy. We want to ensure that post Sizewell C construction, that we don't have a boom and bust scenario, that we have businesses fit for future growth, future sectors, and also that we help businesses take on sustainable and proportionate growth. Again, what we don't want to see is businesses taking on too much. It's about helping you get onto this project in the right way, getting you, so to speak, inside the fence, additional work, pick up that learning and that growth slowly throughout the next decade, 12 years or so. And of course, then also the environment. Fundamentally, Sizewell C is a solution to the UK's drive towards net zero for 2050. What we want to ensure is that businesses who are forming part of that then are also looking at their own net zero, making sure that they are addressing their own carbon emissions and their own ambitions around this area. And we're there to support that work. And then, of course, realistically, the reason we're doing this is because of that commitment. 4.4 billion committed to our region, as well as other parts of the country. You'll see other commitments. And that's through the supply chain. And we want to see businesses maximise that. Every bit of evidence from Somerset is that that can be delivered and exceeded upon in an ideal world as well. And this is because we want a nationally significant infrastructure project rich environment in this region because of how many large-scale projects are happening, but also then the future of the nuclear supply chain across the UK, the energy transition supply chain more broadly. And how we do that, as I said at the start, is by basically supporting you. Yes, we support the likes of Ella and Jack who are here today to help understand and meet local businesses who maybe can provide that solutions for them, help them scope out, do that long listing. But more importantly, we're there to support those local businesses and regional businesses who maybe want to understand what's happening, when it's happening, what they need to do to be part of Sizewell, and how we help support you journey by opening up your eyes to things you need to do and things you can be doing to get ready for this opportunity. As always, and there'll be some slides towards the end, we're there for you. So we want you to reach out to us, talk to us, and let us help you. So at this point, I'll stop talking because it's far more important that you hear from Ella. So I'll invite Ella to come on and talk about the first aspect of the comms and maintenance enhancements.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ella. I'm going to be the procurement and commercial lead for this works package. So yeah, as Ashley said, this is just a small PowerPoint. It'll outline the scope, outline some of our key needs, what we're looking for in a supplier, and then towards the end, I'll talk you through the procurement process and really where we go from here. So if I pass you over to Jack, who's going to be talking you through the scope as our technical lead.
Hi everyone, I'm the project manager for IT and Telecoms at Sizewell C. So what we've got in front of you here is the comms maintenance work package. Just by the way, we're going to be talking through two different scope of works, which will be two different contracts. So the comms and maintenance will be for the essentially the fibre planned maintenance and reactive maintenance, and also any sort of upgrades that we need to the cellular infrastructure that's installed. So we haven't installed any of the infrastructure on site yet, but we are planning to install 2 masts on site in different areas throughout the main development site, which you can see on the map there. And that's essentially to provide staff radio coverage across the main development site, cellular coverage, and Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the whole area to all the service buildings. Go to the next slide. So the fibre infrastructure is going to be installed across the whole main development site. There's going to be 2 main hub buildings with several kiosk points throughout the main site. And essentially we need a contract to support planned fibre audits because there's the extent of the fibre that's going to be out there, but also a reactive service in the event that there is any issues. So if any plant in the construction site potentially disrupted a fibre route, then we'd need someone to get out there, have a look at the problem and fix it urgently. And the other part of it is just pest prevention to all the openings where the cabinets are and the buildings and the key sort of duct routes and chambers throughout the site. Do the next slide. And the cellular part and fibre enhancements is just in the event that anything needs to change. So when the infrastructure is delivered, it'll be dated to the year that it's installed. So let's say it's installed next year. But throughout the construction life cycle of the nuclear power plant, we're expecting it to take about 15 years. It may be that some of that equipment becomes dated, and for example, of cellular, 5G becomes 6G. So it may be that we were looking to upgrade that equipment to the latest technology, but also may be that when the construction's at its height with lots of cranes and different bits of plant in the main construction area, we might get interference issues, which would mean we might need to put new equipment on site in different locations. So this element is there to cover that. So it's enhancements based off the main construction site evolving, and that would be the same with fibre. So when we put the initial infrastructure in via the construction contract, we'll be putting the fibre in certain routes that we know are needed at the time, but it may just be as the construction site develops, there's new buildings that come up or new workforces that need further connectivity. So we'd expect this contract to pick that up and provide new fibre routes from the existing infrastructure that we have to give them connectivity. Next slide. So timelines. So ideally, we'd like to show you what our designs are. We have a very high level design that's been produced, but we've currently got a contractor coming in that will be doing a detailed design and then actually installing all the infrastructure. And we just got some rough dates out there at the moment. So we're expecting that we'll have the masts delivered by October 2025. And the fibre is expected to come in phases just based off the construction site availability, sort of starting from January next year to finish in January 2027. At that point, that contract will be complete and it'll be handing over to this operations contract. So if there is new fibre routes that are required after that contract's finished, then this new one would pick it up. Yeah, and the idea is to have a 3-year term service for this, just because we don't know, well, we can't tell you exactly when the infrastructure is going to be delivered yet. But also when it is delivered, we don't know when these enhancements are going to occur. We know for the planned fibre, you'd be able to put a schedule of activities for that to say, right, we'll come and do this every so often, every month or whatever. But for the enhancements, it's subject to when it's required. So that's the reason for a term service contract. Next slide. So the success criteria, so basically just contractors that have experience in the scope. So in terms of designing and building cellular infrastructure for operators, the likes of Vodafone and EE, and contractors that have experience in designing and installing fibre networks. Next slide. Shall I hand over to you here, Ella?
Yeah. So this is my bit. So the next step will be for the submission of expressions of interest, and this will be via Compete For. That will be made available after this meeting. So if you believe that you'd be a good fit, then if you submit your expression of interest, that will compile a list from us to work through. After that, we'll take people through to the PQQ stage, which is the questionnaire that looks at past business experience on, excuse me, on complex multi-level sites, as well as nuclear experience. It also has questions surrounding previous engagement, financial history, that sort of thing, and also diversity and inclusion. So it's a fairly comprehensive PQQ stage. We just want you to be aware of that, and it will be looking at a wide variety into various businesses. Once PQQ has gone out, it's about a 3-week wait before you submit them back in. Once we've had a chance to go through them, we'll, further select some suppliers that we want to take through to an invitation to tender. This is where you'll have access to contract documents for the scope and designs, where you'll be able to submit your programs and submit a approximate quotation. Finally is the tender negotiation stage, where it'll be meet with legal and meet with the communications team that we currently have and work out some of the finer points. And then finally, contract signature. We're probably looking to get this out by, I would say, January or February of 2025. So we've got a fair amount of time. So they will be able to have quite a decent gap in between each process, just to allow time for you to prepare for each stage. Yeah, that's next slide, please. Okay. Just hand back over to Jack. Yeah. If you could just
so
hand over.
This is for the other contract scope of works. So this is for the private radio operations, maintenance and enhancement. So we've decided to split this up because the staff radio is quite specialist, and certain suppliers will have that skill set. So it just makes sure we can have a direct relationship with that tier one contractor. So again, this slide's pretty much the same as the last scope of works. We're going to be installing 2 masts. Both masts will have the staff radio equipment on them, and then that's going to be picked up by the construction contract. This contract will be picking up the operation side of it, which we can talk about on the next slide. Thank you. So key activities for this. So radio handset management. So we're going to be, I think we're predicting that we'll have up to at sort of peak 33,000 units handsets going out to the workforce. So, and that will be ramping up throughout the life cycle of the project. We do have some infrastructure on site at the moment, which we're calling it's temporary mast, which is providing some coverage around site, and there's handsets out to a percentage of the workforce. When the perm ones are put out, there'll be a certain amount already rolled out, but then this contractor will need to manage what's already out there with the engineers, but also the rollout of procuring more handsets to get out to the workforce to be able to get up to the 3,000 number, but also when the construction sort of dies down and be bringing the units back in, and there'll be lots of activities in terms of maintenance, returns, new channel requirements from different contractors coming aboard. So this bit seems like quite a bulky part of the contract, so we'd expect there to be on-site engineers to deliver this service, and they'd be picking up all the daily tasks. The other element of it would be the preventative maintenance. So again, these on-site engineers would be doing these tasks in terms of sort of proactive checks on the system. So physical checks on the repeaters, interrogating the system, checking the fans, coverage checks, RF tests. So we'd expect that to be done regularly. And then the contractor would be reporting on the results from these visits. And the key part for this is to ensure that there's no downtime on site. So the staff radio for Sizewell C is a critical system. It's without that, we can't perform any of our construction activities on site. So we need to make sure there is zero downtime. Any downtime would affect the critical path of the construction for the project. So all these activities are key to just ensuring that any faults that are coming in, they don't actually affect the service, and they are resolved before they become an issue. Next slide, please. So the other parts is monitoring. So we'd expect the system to be monitored remotely 24/7. Any faults raised to be triaged and then resolved to avoid any downtime. If there was any faults that occur and they're over the weekend or out of hours, then there would be an element of the contract to support that to come out and hopefully resolve those issues before they become a service affecting issue. Then we've got enhancements. So what's going to be installed by the contractors is just 2 masts, which will have the radio equipment installed on, which should provide pretty good coverage to the whole site with resilience. But when in the main section of the construction site where the nuclear reactors will be built, they'll be doing a deep dig, and that goes down pretty deep, and there's going to be loads of galleries. So for experience at HPC, we have to put, when I say HPC, I mean Hinkley Point. We have to put more equipment in to be able to get into those new areas that weren't there before, essentially. So that would be installing things like leaky feeder and extra repeaters and maybe some DAS systems in certain areas. So this contractor would need to be using the sort of monitoring element of the contract to say, right, we're starting to get issues in this area, we're not got signal here, and then coming up with designs to sort of come up with ideas for filling in the spots that currently don't provide service, or there might be some just existing bits that have become a black spot because new cranes have gone up, so we need to put equipment in different areas of the site with different line of sights. So that's expected to be quite a chunky part of the contract. We know from Hinkley Point that there was quite a lot of new equipment that had to be put in. But obviously it can't be put in as the initial construction phase because some of those areas aren't there yet. And that kind of, again, supports why we're going for a team service, because we don't know when these activities will be required, but it's a matter of this contract monitoring what the current coverage is like, and when the site changes, to come up with ideas for new equipment, essentially. There may potentially be a need for a temporary site. So if a load of cranes go up and they block the line of sight of one of the existing masts, then we might need to deploy a temporary site in a new area of the construction site. So that's something that may or may not be required throughout the contract. Reporting. So in terms of the activities we were talking about before, so handset management, utilization, and all the preventative maintenance activities, we expect them to be reported, including all the faults, and there'd be a monthly meeting essentially to go through sort of certain points that need to be actioned in terms of potentially enhancing the current system, or any sort of maintenance issues that need to be addressed. And then the final point is training. So again, we'd expect the on-site engineers, as they're rolling out to new suppliers as they come on board to site, to be that sort of those figures of the hands-on training, teaching the new engineers how to use the handsets, how to look after them, and different sort of processes for them to follow when they need new channels and stuff. Next slide, please. So again, similar time frames, but basically this is just for, we've said once the masts are constructed and the radio equipment installed, then there'll be like a couple of month handover period from that construction company, and then it would come over to the company doing this contract to fulfill the operations of the radio system, and we're expecting that to be a 3-year contract with reviews. Next slide, please. So success criteria. So essentially we're looking for companies that have experience in private mobile systems. Yeah, anyone that's got any experience in dealing with private mobile systems, maintaining, designing, and enhancing them. This is going to be a very complicated environment for private mobile system. So we just need companies that have got a wealth of experience in working in sort of complicated construction environments. Next slide, please. Over to you, Ella.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, so pretty much the same as the previous contract in terms of the process. It'll be a separate expression of interest and PQQ for this contract, but similar process. Because it's a bit more of a specialist contract, the PQQ will contain a few more questions regarding experience and knowledge of complex work sites, and specifically to do with things like the deep dig. But otherwise, tender negotiation stage, contract signature is all going to be the same as the previous contract. And as Jack said, we're looking to begin contract by around February.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Jack. We'll do questions in a moment, but before I stop sharing and we do some questions, I just wanted to, and Ella's perfectly kind of outlined that procurement process, but just for those, again, who have not seen this slide, I think it's important just so that people understand that process that Sizewell will go through and then tier one contractors will go through. So everything, a lot of you have met our team in the chamber, it's kind of everything we do is pre that expression of interest, pre that market engagement on compete for. So compete for is the place where you'll first kind of throw your hat in the ring and say, I'm interested. Very basic questions, but it's you raising your hand to say, I want to understand more. I'm interested in this package. I think I can deliver it. Have to register on compete for to do that. If you've never accessed it, then you'll get some links off these slides, which we will share to you all. But obviously, you can also find it on our website as well. There's lots of links on there. And over the last couple of weeks, we've done a couple of webinars on compete for as well. So if you've never had experience of using it, please do. It's important to get ready and make sure you're able to respond timely to Ella and Jack and the rest of the Sizewell team. Should you be successful to get that next stage, that PQQ stage that Ella spoke about, this is done on a platform called iValuer. So the likes of Ella would actually send you an email saying, congratulations, you've moved to the next stage. Here's a link, please register here. Little point and trick, make sure your spam folder on your emails is not picking up compete for or iValuer, because we have had examples in the past already where some businesses have been a bit nervous thinking it's spam or it has been picked up by spam, and they've either delayed the amount of time they're able to respond to these, or in one example, completely. So make sure you're getting yourself as ready as possible. Tendering will also happen on the iValuer platform as well. And then should you get forward to that successful stage, you will then be sent additional platforms where you'll actually be managing that contract and managing that payment. So you see some of the examples at the bottom right there. So we'll share these. It's important you can understand that process, and in particular that these things take time. So it is worth, particularly on compete for, as Ella said, this is going to be on pretty quickly, but familiarise yourselves with it straight away to really benefit yourselves and get yourselves as ready as possible. So sharing, and I will get that off my screen and I will come back to Teams. Fantastic. So now Ella, you've got your hand up. So is there something you want to say?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that the compete for will go out by the end of this week, and we'll be looking to have all submissions in by the 30th of September. So that's when we'll close PQQ and start evaluating on who's likely to go to PQQ stage. So that's 30th of September.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ella. Well, that probably answers some of the questions that we've got. And obviously, if anyone does have any other questions during, please do chuck them on. We've got what was the deadline for the expression of interest? Well, fantastic. Generally speaking, just as rule of thumb, you can expect 7 to 10 days. In the main, Sizewell aim always for 10 days. As per our compete for webinars, we did let you know, I appreciate for most businesses, they're used to working Monday to Friday. A project like Sizewell is 24/7, 365. So it is important. You have to consider that Saturdays and Sundays are working days when we're talking about this project. So don't be afraid. It might be 10 days rather than 10 working days you have to respond. But to put you at rest, the expression of interest is such a light touch. So we just recommend as soon as you see that opportunity, it will be on there. We will also alert you all the moment it happens as well through our emails and our social media. So you will all be informed by us as well as compete for that it's live. But get on there nice and quickly, get that response in, and then the detail really starts when you get to the PQQ stage. So we've got a question here. So Ella, just so I've understood correctly, the expression of interest Then PQQ and successful bidders will be issued the RFP in January 25. There's a little bit more. And we've already responded to the expression of interest last week. Will there be another one? So, Ella?
Yes, there will be a second expression of interest that will go out. And in regards to the RFP, yes, that is correct. After the PQQ stage is when that will take place.
Fantastic. Will there be separate contracts for communications related to the Orwell Logistics Park, the park and ride site? So everything off-site, Ella, or will it be wrapped into this same contract?
Yeah, so we're looking to just have the two contracts, one for the IT and communications and one for the radio. So everything to do with that will be contained in the two contracts.
Okay, excellent. So everything off-site. Oh, go on, Jack.
No, so that's not quite right. Yeah, so this question's about Orwell Logistics Park and the park and ride sites. Yeah, I think we need to take that away. It's a good question. It would probably be, at the moment, I'm not sure if it's in this scope of work really, but the question is whether it needs to be included, or if it would be picked up separately. So we'd need to take that away and check. But that is off-site. So this scope of works is for on-site. So we just need to check if this needs to be included or not.
Okay. All right. Well, we can feed that back, because obviously if you take, for example, for those of you familiar with the off-site locations, they're all run individually by principal contractors with regards to the construction. So it may well be they're left there, but we will confirm that, and then we'll make sure, if you don't mind, Jack, feeding back to me, and then I can get that information out to those who have attended and those who also registered have been unable to attend. So that'd be fantastic. Also, for the first lot, so the comms one, so will the RFP outline what central EDF tools and processes will be utilised for ongoing services, e.g. ServiceNow for monitoring services and associations, all lots of words, ITIL functions. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Basically, Ella, can you answer that question? Or Jack, can you answer that question? Yeah.
I think we need to, at the moment, it doesn't consider that. So we'd need to take that away to see if we want to have that outlined in the scope for it. Yeah, it's not in line with those services at the moment. And I don't think I'm not too sure if those services have been defined for Sizewell yet. So again, that would be something we need to come back on.
And do I assume that information, would you only get that at ITT stage, or would that come out in the PQQ stage?
I don't know. It's just I need to have the conversations. I don't know what stage I'm going to get the answer to that. I'd like to be able to give you a firm answer quite soon if it's intended to be included or not.
Not a problem. I mean, obviously, in particular, that's relevant for those who have worked on Hinkley. Obviously, for many of you who are aware, obviously, Hinkley is an EDF project. Sizewell is not. So there will be some stuff that is replicated and copied across, but there'll be a lot of new stuff happening on Sizewell for those reasons. So be interesting to see on that one. But again, we will ensure we feed that back in should anything come through on that. Another question has come in. So what equipment, radio comms wise, is to be pre-installed at construction stage? Do we know what technology or manufacturer yet?
Motorola. The exact model, I don't know off the top of my head, but certainly I can give you that quite quickly after this session. So I'll give you the information of what's already installed. So we've already got some, we originally put a UHF system on there, but we're just currently putting a new temporary VHF system, and the idea will be for the permanent infrastructure that gets installed to sort of use the same that's on the temporary mast at the moment. I'll give you the model numbers after this call.
Fantastic, thank you. And then I'll make sure that's fed out. So thank you, Mark. Please, can you send a copy of the... Oh, yes, 100%. So it might not be this afternoon, bear with us, but probably by the end of the week, You will get a copy of the presentation and all the information. Like I say, as soon as Jack can get back with those questions, we'll make sure you get all of that stuff. Plus, we'll also share links to the portal and Compete For and stuff like that as well. And actually, Chris has asked the same question. Is there a spec already agreed, equipment or manufacturer-wise, for the cellular comms?
For the cellular, there's not like a configuration. There's not a configuration confirmed yet. We've got an outline design, and the construction contractor will be completing a detailed design, which will be done later in the year. So that will be information that we can provide to the latter stages of this tender process, but it definitely won't be for the PPQ. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
So I said at high level, we're looking for 4G and 5G solutions, but I can't give you sort of the exact technologies that are going to be delivered.
Okay. And of course, with if any other questions come through, chuck them, because we'll answer them in a moment. But as we always say, if after this you think of something, you just come through to me. You can come through. I see Karim, one of our colleagues, is within the chamber, is on the call today as well. You've obviously, many of you would have had countless emails from Ian, I'm sure, over the time, or even Beth, who sent the invites out. You can come through to any of us. If you've got any questions, we'll make sure we get that information into Ella, into Jack, into whoever it needs to be, and then get the answers back out to you. So, and the same through the process. I say the expression of interest is very light touch, but as soon as you hit the PQQ process, there's then that direct relationship with the likes of Ella, with the likes of Jack, where you'll be able to raise questions, raise issues, add clarifications, and so on. It's very much a two-way process once you get to PQQ and beyond. So, is there any other questions? We're going to make sure we've got no hands up, but any other questions that anyone has while we are all here? If not, I mean, the irony of and I apologise, Jack, for the massive lag when I was pressing the button. The irony of my terrible signal in Suffolk when we're doing a comms 4G, 5G based one. I mean, welcome to Suffolk in that regard. But I think, as there is no other questions, I will get the slides out. As Ella said, look out for the opportunity to Compete For early. If nothing else, everyone on here is relevant, so get your name in the hat, so to speak, and start that conversation. And I think the evidence from other packages, which I think is relevant to this, is it may end up being that some of you on this call aren't suitable to actually end up winning the whole package based on turnover, based on experience, etc. But you could well be performing a role within that supply chain. So for us, it's not just about helping Sizewell find their tier one, their company that are going to run this. It's then about finding that entire supply chain underneath, whether they be suppliers of equipment, whether they be suppliers of an individual service within this contract. So very much we will soon start then to work with those companies that do win this to identify their supply chain to deliver this contract and how they can deliver local and regional commitments as well. So if, thinking forward, any of you are unsuccessful, that's not necessarily always the end. It's then an opportunity to find another part of the project to fit you into, or another person to work for. Sorry, go on, Jack.
My question was just, so there's a bit of stuff which I can answer after the call. Am I sending this through to yourself?
Yes, please.
And then you'll distribute. Cool.
Yeah. Also, I thought I was going to say something. Then, I will make sure all this is shared out, and if you can get it to me within a day or so, then even better, because I'll send it with all the slide pack, etc. Jack. So, but brilliant. Well, there's no other questions coming through. Thank you, everyone, for dedicating some time this afternoon. It's always nice to get a few minutes back. And like I say, any questions, reach out to us. I wish you all luck if you're going to bid for these packages of work. This project, if any of you live anywhere near Leiston, will know is massive. It's very exciting. And I don't envy any of you that have got to try and get radio and communications across a site like this. I mean, it's going to be one hell of a case study for any of you if you do win this work. So good luck to you, and look forward to speaking to you all in the very future. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks all. Thanks for joining.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.